It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, we talk about Land Rover crime, Ike gets ready to cross Africa, and then we review some of the greatest Land Rovers we found on Bring a Trailer. And now, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Barris, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at thebarriscollection.com or follow us on Instagram at thebarriscollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Ike Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I am the natural aspiration to Stephen's forced induction. I am the limit of atmospheric pressure. Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, we've got some news this week, and we've got some other stuff to look through, but this is the last Ike Goss podcast, hopefully not forever. I really hope you make it through your TransAfrica expedition and don't die.
I am also hopeful, but there will be a gauntlet to run of various vehicle maladies and wild animals, so we'll see.
Yeah, you never know. So look forward to 3 weeks of special guests and guest hosts, and I don't know. We'll see. We may not make it through this 3 weeks. You may be better off than we are. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But speaking of better off than we are, in a Crime Stoppers Land Rover Crime Stoppers update, you have some news on our ever evolving story about Land Rover crime in the UK.
Yeah, this just in from retired crime dog McGruff. In the UK, the head of the Land Rover theft ring proven to have stolen
kingpin, if you will. Yeah.
Several, at least 14 that they know of, or they could prove, Land Rovers, mostly through hacking key fobs. They've stolen these vehicles and stolen a lot of the goods and merchandise that were kept inside of them.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
And this gentleman received a 2-year sentence, but suspended. So no actual jail time.
No consequences is what you're saying. So that's certainly going to
if he keeps his nose clean.
Oh, right, of course, yeah. It's really about stopping him from stealing more than it is about punishing the ones that have already been stolen. I mean, that's what's in the past is in the past. It doesn't matter apparently.
So yeah, keep your key fobs close to hand. In fact, most of these, I guess, were stolen without access to the owner's key fobs.
The key fob, yeah, it was the hacking thing.
Except one where somebody left the door open to their house and somebody reached inside the door onto the key hook, grabbed the key fob, and then stole the Land Rover.
Well, that just goes to show you. I mean, maybe don't lock your door, but close it. Just pull it closed.
We have our own problems here in America, but that's not really one that happens too often.
No, and it just goes to show you, don't keep your Humboldt statue collection in your Range Rover. Not a good place.
You're speaking from experience, aren't you?
I am, yeah. Let
Those
me tell
poor
you.
Hummels. What did you do to them?
Yeah, I know. I just don't have a lot of space, and they look so great on the dash of my Range Rover.
Till the airbag goes off. And
oh, my God.
You have crockery forced into your skin at 3,000 miles an hour.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Well, it's nice to know that the UK's justice system is firing on all cylinders when it comes to punishing crime. So
yeah, that's not good.
There you go. Well, speaking of the UK justice system, I'm trying to make a leap to exporting felons to Australia, but this particular
bridge too far.
Yeah, just couldn't do it. That's they don't always work out. But anyways, there is a particularly interesting vehicle in New Zealand, the Canada of Australia, that has
oh no, we're gonna get so much hate mail over that.
that has been, I guess, doing like a cross country tour. What's the story with this particularly interesting little series one that's been around New Zealand?
Professor Julian Patent of
Oh,
I'm
Jesus.
going to get extra hate mail.
Nah, we're going to get doxxed. Yeah.
Of New Zealand. He is driving his Series 1 80-inch Land Rover Geraldine in a benefit to rheumatic heart disease.
Oh,
so
interesting.
They're raising money to help with the production of, I guess, growable heart valves that can be 3D printed and grow with their recipients.
Neat.
And so
Geraldine it's not just any Series 1 Land Rover, right? It's a pretty significant one.
It is. It's the oldest 80-inch Land Rover sold in New Zealand. It's number 20. That's production Land Rover number 20.
Wow.
So quite an early car. And I guess he has done a lot of maintenance and repair to get it ready for this nearly 2,000-kilometer journey for this fundraiser. So that's really cool. I've been following it a little bit. Our good friend Michael Bishop has been posting some updates on Instagram about this trip.
Right.
If you're interested in donating, check out Drive 4 Hearts. That's Drive the number 4 and Hearts. And seems like a great fundraiser for a good cause.
Yeah, and it's super cool little 80-inch, very, very original. It sort of has a JUE kind of look to it, but hasn't been significantly restored. Just sounds like it's been really well maintained. So that's really cool, man. I mean,
super cool trip.
That's like a Steve Owen level of buttock hardening going on, I'm sure, in driving 2,000 miles.
If you ever say that again, that phrase,
I have a T-shirt.
I'm not looking forward to that. Check out Drive for Hearts, and if you can, give them some money.
Yeah, that's super cool. And they have in this article here in the New Zealand Daily Times or whatever, they have quite a collection of Land Rovers that have come out to support this along the way. Some really neat New Zealand Land Rovers and some hobbits. There's hobbits there, I believe. So
there are no hobbits.
Lots of hobbits supporting this event. So
do not
for juvenile hobbits disease, I believe is what
that is not accurate.
No. Okay. Well, anyway, speaking of not accurate, we thought we'd spend some time looking through the annals of everyone's favorite online car sale website.
I feel like you've been in trouble for looking at people's annals before.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Well, you're an analyst. Isn't that what you do?
Or a therapist.
Or a therapist. Ooh.
Or analysis therapist and an analorapist.
I like it. Yeah. We've got some pretty fantastic cars on the old Bring a Trailer. Now, some have recently sold. Some have sold in late last year. But I have to say, these are definitely some winners. I think the first up is a 1967 Land Rover 88 Series 2A that sold for $22,250 back in end of September. And it is a World Wildlife stick car.
Tribute? Would you call it a tribute?
Yeah, I would call it a tribute. But this one has possibly one of the ropiest bumpers I've seen in a while.
That's saying something.
It is, because I like to think I'm somewhat of an aficionado.
There's a lot of ropey bumpers on Bring a Trailer.
There sure is. It's almost a prerequisite. If you're going to sell your Series Land Rover on Bring a Trailer, you need to put a serious amount of rope around that bumper. So much so that in this case, it's pretty significantly dented the front wings with just the sheer amount of rope that's on there. So that's good. They're pushed in pretty good. So you're doing it right when you've damaged the bodywork because of the amount of rope you've added to the bumper. So it's good.
There's a lot of rope on this vehicle. But what are some of the other special features of this car?
Well, this one doesn't just have a ropey bumper. It has a ropey tailgate. And by
rope
ropey
on
tailgate,
both ends?
I mean the tailgate is made out of rope.
So it's made out of rope, like it's woven together.
It's like a macrame net that has been placed over where the tailgate would normally go on a series vehicle, and it's quite something. They've really embraced the ropey lifestyle, which I appreciate, obviously.
Now, I'm looking at this auction, and one of the things that I notice about this car is that it's presented as a vehicle with no top.
Right.
And a ropey tailgate. But I think what's more interesting is that it has a dash-mounted, vinyl-covered backup camera.
Yes, it does.
mounted to the dash so that you can see behind the vehicle.
That's right. With the ropey see-through tailgate.
I
And
can't
no
picture
roof.
a vehicle other than a motorcycle with better rearward visibility than this car. And I hadn't considered putting a backup camera on my motorcycle, but this is
Maybe.
making me have second thoughts.
Yeah, maybe you should. Yeah. You wouldn't want to slowly inch your way into someone. So yeah, no, there's some interesting choices that were made, as any of these sort of cars are. Some of this car was red maybe at one point, and other parts of this car were maybe a grayish blue color. I'm not exactly sure. It looks as though maybe the paint on the front wings was trying to sort of match the rear. Something's trying to match something. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that it really worked 100%. But it's interesting. I don't think it's a real patina car. I think it's a sort of faux patina in some way. But
it has a lot of patina of various types going on.
Yeah.
You know?
It's got all the patinas.
It's got all the patinas. It's got some neat things about it. It's got some nice tires on it. It's got a lot of neat stuff.
Series
about
3 motor, I guess, sort of parts of a Series 3 motor. It's interesting.
I don't hate this car, but there are certain aspects of it that I'm like, really? Are you?
Yeah.
You're kidding, right? And
Listen, if I was offered this ropey tailgate, I'm not sure I would say no.
Yeah. It's got some endearing qualities. Did you notice the subwoofer mounted behind the middle seat?
Oh, I didn't. No. Oh, that's a good addition.
It looks like it could do a lot of woofing. It's a MB Quart Discus brand subwoofer, and it says MB Quart Discus in big letters.
It would like displace a discus in your back with the thumping behind you or something?
I can't exactly tell. I almost think that this is under the middle seat, but I can't tell. Maybe it's behind. I think it is actually a center console / subwoofer.
Nice.
And then it has some speakers on the dash that also say MB Quart. I could do without all that vinyl covered speaker
stuff.
and backup camera stuff.
It's interesting that it has a backup camera. I wouldn't think that's not really something you think about in a series Land Rover. The visibility is actually really, really good.
Well, maybe they have like a neck injury that prevents them from turning their head.
That would make sense.
Now, on the other side of the dash, there's another speaker, and it looks like it's mounted into a panel that I can't tell if it's welded or caulked into the parcel tray. And it has a speaker and a little tweeter.
Little tiny one,
that
it's
looks
adorable.
like it came out of 1997.
This does have some 1997 AV qualities to it. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it. I think it's a neat car in a few ways, and maybe unnecessary in a few others. So hey, to each his own. If hopefully somebody's out there driving and enjoying their purchase, and enjoying that ropey tailgate. If anyone knows of this owner and they want to get rid of that ropey tailgate, please reach out and we'll make an offer.
Steven likes his rope.
I do. I love a ropey bumper. Speaking of, interesting cars with some maybe questionable restoration moves. The next up is a 1973 Land Rover 88 Series 3, of course. And this one is let's say it's an homage expedition vehicle, I think.
A tribute? Would you call it a tribute?
I would call it a tribute
this is a second tribute.
This would be another tribute. Yeah, this is a tribute. And this may be a tribute to a tribute even, because it seems as though maybe something was lost in translation. This car, as you can see, is emblazoned with the TransAfrica Expedition along the side, which back in the day was very much the style. And usually, in the case of like my forward control that went from London to Cape Town, it was, you usually put your start and end, places on the car as well, and so this one has done that, but maybe with not the most geographic accuracy in the world.
Now, our friend Martin Port, who I believe worked on the book, the JUE book, chronicling its restoration, he has a genuine Series 2A, I believe, TransAfrica car. And
That's right.
says TransAfrica on the side, and it has a really neat history. And so I got to think that maybe some of the inspiration for this tribute vehicle came from that vehicle, possibly.
Could be.
But what's interesting about this one is the start and finish like the start of this expedition and the end of this expedition are also emblazoned on the side of this vehicle.
That's right.
So this expedition would have started in Morocco and ended in Cape Horn. And if I'm not mistaken, Cape Horn is in South America.
That's correct. Yes.
Which is not impossible, but it is certainly improbable.
And definitely not trans-African. That would be
no, it is
that
not.
would be that would be in somewhat non-trans Africa. So when doing tribute cars, a little bit of consultation to a map is not a bad call. And anyways, I mean, besides that, it is an otherwise fairly straightforward Series 3 automobile. It's got everything spray painted black underneath, so you have no idea how rusty anything is, and all the usuals.
This is a North American specification car.
Yeah.
So it's red, and it looks like it was originally red, even though the exterior has been sort of painted. And it's got a lot of the North American features, the turn signals, the interior deluxe pieces. It's got a lot of that stuff. So here's the $1 million question, Stephen. I'm asking the hard questions. Do you think this vehicle is elevated by its tribute nature, or do you think it's diminished?
Well, I think given the geographic, misunderstanding, I don't think it's helping anything.
You don't think it's helping?
I don't think it's helping. Now, this car did sell for $25,730 just last month.
Not that
long ago. It does have, it seems to be somewhat, except for being oversprayed and some things like that. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it necessarily hurts it. I don't know that it helps it in any way. It
adds some visual interest to the uninitiated. I think it would stand out in a parking lot. Now it's got a couple panels that they're not blending in with the rest of it. It's got a couple chunks out of the dash. It's got, some stuff.
Yeah.
But it looks like a solid West Coast example. It has an overdrive. It has some nice features. It looks like it's driving, operating. I don't think it's a terrible result for this car, but you got to wonder, how well that will age. And, with today's political climate, having trans emblazoned on the side of your car
that's a good point.
might attract unwanted attention from some despicable folks.
That's a good point. It may be that the administration bans this car. Could be.
You never know.
Could be. It's true. I don't dislike it. I think it's kind of neat. I do love expedition cars, obviously. Yeah. I don't love expedition cars that are not necessarily correct. Lots of people do really neat actual, homage cars or reproductions of expedition vehicles, and they're really cool. But I do feel like that in 1973 or 4, when this was going from Morocco to Cape Horn, South America, that it would have been unlikely that it had an LED light bar above the front windscreen.
I was going to ask you your thoughts on the LED stuff. It's got the LED headlights. It's got the full width LED light bar above the windshield there.
Yeah.
In sort of a similar way to the last vehicle we talked about, has some sort of, idiosyncrasies or, stuff that doesn't seem to belong. I think these LED lights fall into that category.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you would make the choice to, do a reproduction and put the Trans-African thing and everything on the side, but then have an LED light bar over the front windscreen. That's a little interesting, sort of a thing. And what looks like a spray painted silver bumper as well, which is another one of my favorite things when people take the silver rattle can from the Lowe's and spray paint their galvanized bumper. That's always fun.
Speaking of spraying, I'm just sort of scrolling through the images of this car, and the photos were taken. It looks like there is about 5 gallons of Armor All that have been sprayed onto the dashboard.
And the seats. I think if you were to too quickly jump into the driver's side with the passenger door open, it's a very good chance that you would slide all the way through the car and
Just
out the other
all
door.
the way out the other side.
Yeah, it is the slipperiest car, I imagine. Yeah, and the hand painted nature of the of the logos on the side is somewhat, in a close up maybe doesn't wear as well as it does in a farther away shot, so that's something, but yeah, hey, each to his own. If you want to go, if you want to emblazon a big long thing on the side of your car, hey, who are we to blame? The paint is not it's not in great shape. Not, I think, because of a patina approach, because I think it's sat outside for quite a while. Mm-hmm. It looks as though it has a lot of environment on it. And one completely unpainted or painted silver. Hard to say. It looks like all the cappings have been painted silver. But the license plate rear panel on the driver's side is just either bare aluminum or painted silver. So
I'm also noticing substantial amounts of RTV sealant under the windshield. In one of the photos, and I didn't notice it at first because it was sort of blending in with the faded red look of this car, but I've often found the amount of silicone on a car is inversely proportional to its weather tightness.
It's exactly right. Yeah, it's funny how that works, actually, but
the more sealant you have, the less sealed it is.
It's true. And there looks to be like maybe just a touch of mold starting in the headliner as well. There's those suspicious black dots that mean there may be not such great things happening underneath that headliner. So, yeah, hey, hopefully whoever has this, is very happy with it and it's working out for them. And interested to know.
Looks like a fundamentally decent old Rover.
Yeah, it looks fine.
A little bit of rust, a little bit of shabbiness, but it's still cool.
Yep.
Well, speaking of things that are still cool.
Yeah, and this one
next
is
vehicle.
Yeah, this has not actually sold as we're recording this, but will have by the time we've finished. This is a 1992 Land Rover Discovery 3-door with a 200 TDI and 5-speed in it, which is a very desirable package for an import Discovery. This one, of course, from our very good friend Ivan of Ivan and Dan of Rover Talk fame, has come in from Spain, as Ivan does. He brings these cars over from Spain, so they're always dry and free of rot and all that sort of stuff.
Left-hand drive.
Yeah, and left-hand drive, yeah. Which you can't say about a lot of certainly two-door Discoveries, because they were, very popular in the UK. They never came over here, and every one of them in the UK, as we know from our good friend Jean-Luc, that the master of G-Wax, that, they're can often be nothing left of them because the chassis simply rot away. And the Discoveries, especially the early ones, had all these little areas where water would get trapped in between the body and where they were bonded together and just rot completely away inside of the fenders and inside of the roof, especially. I guess like the back part of the roof around the Alpine windows is really bad, and they just rot. So these ones coming in from Spain obviously don't have that problem because it's very dry and very warm there most of the time, and Ivan does a good job of getting these cars sort of repainted or at least sort of freshened up over there, and then brings them here. So this one looks cool.
What do you think about this car? Are you going to be able to resist?
Geez, I don't know. Right now, the current bid is only $10,000, which I think for a 200 TDI car, period, is like a pretty good deal. It's a I can't remember the name of this blue color. Ivan would know. He has like instant recall for all paint color names. But the blue, light blue, if you will, sort of a metallic light blue color. But more importantly,
Mistral
blue. But more importantly, in this case, the carpet matches the drapes, in that the interior is sonar blue, which is, without question at all, my absolute favorite interior car color. It's such an insane color to make the interior of a car in the 90s that I kind of can't believe that it actually exists, that like Land Rover made this car with this interior.
It exists.
It does.
Now, and the engine color on these is also kind of interesting. If you're not familiar, it's gold.
Yes, they're gold. That's right. The correct engine would be gold. Yeah, the block is gold. Yeah, because it's best because it's gold. It's just how it works.
I'm not a huge Discovery fan. My brother bought a Discovery new in 1995,
Yes.
and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But at that time, but
Right.
I've kind of grown out of love with the Discovery, but this one, it does speak to me a little bit more than most,
Yep.
The diesel engine sure helps, and the kind of funky headlights that these cars have, and the manual windows, and, other features harken back to an earlier vehicle. So a diesel manual Discovery 2-door, kind of an interesting car. I don't hate it. This is kind of a neat one.
And it's got, it's got a lot of those fun little Discovery, things where it's the centered Land Rover logo on the front because it's an early car, and, it's got the little cursive writing Discovery kind of logo thing on the rub strips on either side of the car, which for this year was like a special ordered edition. This isn't like the older, the newer Discoveries that had that as a stock. You'd have to add that little strip down the side and all that. And yeah, I mean, it's got the big chunky no airbag Land Rover steering wheel, and it has the same dash in it as my Camel Trophy Discovery, and as sort of an early Range Rover, really.
That blue vinyl it looks like something out of Judge Dredd.
It really, really does. It really does. And the only problem with the Sonar Blue, and this one actually looks pretty good, is that Sonar Blue turns like pea soup green when exposed to sunlight. So, it's a fight to keep that blue color blue, because it likes to turn a seafoam green and then a really gross, like whitey, plasticky green, which is, I imagine, why they stopped making it, because it is impossible to keep blue. I'm not sure what you could do there. I don't know if you could like reflow it or something and get it back to blue or whatever, but
Reblew it.
But it's a tricky, the Sonar Blue is a cruel mistress when it comes to keeping it blue, but this one looks really good. And I hope Ivan does, that he will sell it to me for 10.
Those pop out middle windows are, those are,
it's got a lot of this is a car from the 1980s that was made in the 1990s, I think is maybe the best way to describe the 2-door Discovery.
Those roof nets, those cargo roof nets that just sag.
Have you ever seen one not totally stretched out?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It looks like he got a brassiere hanging from the roof.
It really does. Yeah, it really does. This has got 2 of the inward-facing jump seats in the back that are also Sonar Blue. That's very cool. And it has air conditioning. Oh, man. This is a cherry unit. This is a nice car. It looks like it's in good shape. I don't know.
I for one, hope you end up with it.
I, for one, also hope that I end up with it, but that's not going to happen. Oh, it has 321,000 kilometers on it, or about 200,000 miles. So just getting broken in for a 200 TDI. It's no problem.
Not
No
bad.
problem at all. Well, at that, it's time for you to start packing and actually thinking about going to Africa in a day and a half. I imagine you've not done any preparation. So
I have to move out of my house too at the same time. So
Of course
I'm,
you do. Yeah,
I'm
that's
about
right. Yeah.
80% done with that. So,
okay, good. Yeah. Sounds like everything is well in order there at up in Oregon. So good luck with that, and safe travels. We can't wait to hear all about the big Trans-African trip that you'll be taking to Cape Horn over the course of the next 3 weeks. So
I'll be in touch. I'll keep you all posted.
can't
Until
wait.
then.
All right. Until then, stay tuned to the Instagrams and things. We'll be posting missing posters for Ike there. So keep an eye out
Don't
for
forget to donate to Drive for Hearts.
That's right. Absolutely. That's a very cool thing. And all the links, as always, will be in the show notes. And from there, we'll see you in a few weeks.
All right, Steven. Take it easy.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Barris, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Barris. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.